is the call. When God calls a person, wow. You know, your life may be heading in a particular direction. You might think you've got it all figured out, and then God will happen. And when God happens to your life, the first thing you will notice is the intimacy of your conversation with God. You will think you know God before. And then when God happens to you, you begin to have this intimate relationship. Like God will be speaking to you in the middle of a crowd, and you will know his voice, and you will know his way, and you will know his life. You'll be like, oh my God. And yet you'll be struggling at the same time, because that which you have known to be definite, you don't want to leave it. And yet God is saying, go and move in another direction. Then you and God will begin to have a conversation. If I ask many of the people here who are pastors and ministers, they will tell you that they had similar experiences. It is rare for you to see somebody who meets God, the initial divine call, and there was no conversation. The person will speak, God will speak, because God wanted the person to know that, hey, I'm calling you, and God will explain the person's mission. No, not all this. I call myself pastors that they will just go and then you ask them, say, God has called everybody. No, they have a divine call, urgent divine call, and there is always a location, a specific location, and a conversation, and God will tell them, this is what I want you to achieve with this call. I want you to raise unto me nations. I want to raise unto me sons. I want to raise unto me the financial backers of a system. I want to raise for me bankers. God will tell people, and when those people hear it, they know that God has called me for a purpose. And when they have that purpose figured out and ironed out, nothing will stop them anymore. So Moses had this connection with God. But then, do you know that after God has called you and you have accepted, you then need some big work. You have some big work to do. First, you have to convince your wife if you are married. Moses and Zipporah, only God knows how many hours of fights they had. Zipporah was in her father's house, was contented with her life. She had never left home before. She wasn't somebody that travels everywhere. She was born in Midian. She was living in Midian. This guy came to them as a fugitive, has lived with them for 40 years. They've had 2 children. And then only God knows how Zipporah will be, but Zipporah cannot be less than maybe 55 to 60. Because when Moses left Egypt, Moses was already 40. Zipporah and Moses met when maybe when Moses was 40, 41. And they've lived together for 40 years. So calculate it. Even if she was a teenager when they met, and you had 40 years to whatever age she had, she would be like 55. Or maybe they even marry early in that time. Say people marry at 12, at 13. They at 13 to 40. That would be 53. And then Moses now said at that age that we want to go back to Egypt. I want to go and rescue my people. Do you know how unsettling that would be for Zipporah? Do you know that she would argue? She would say, no, I don't want to go. This is my father's house. What are you doing at 80? Are you not contented? Am I not making you happy? Is my father's property, my father's business now so bad? Like, what are you looking for again? But this happens to everybody, most of the people that God has called, especially if they were married by the time God calls them. Their partners would kick. Their partners would resist, because you are going to make them leave certainty for uncertainty. You are going to drag them out of a pattern, and people are, all humans are habitual. We are creatures of habit. So it's not easy for somebody to just draw himself out of a particular pattern of lifestyle and then go in another direction that he or she didn't even care about. Zipporah was not called. She didn't see any burning bush. She didn't see angel. She didn't see. She has to believe everything Moses said. I have to trust your word. I leave my banking job. You say God has called you, so me, I should trust that God called you now and leave my banking job, or leave my lawyer job, or leave my 6-figure salary just to follow you into one bush. Do you know how difficult that is? It was difficult. Zipporah showed Moses pepper, but Moses was determined in his heart to obey God. And thank God he was able to pull through. This is another lesson I want us to learn, especially those of us who are in ministry, that God will call you. You must have a way to carry your partner along. You must be able to have that conversation. If Moses had to put his hand under his armpit so that his hand will be withered, he will do it. If he had to throw the staff down so that the power will see snake, he will do it. All he will want to do is convince her that, see, me and you may not know where this is leading, but God is leading us. And you must be able to do that with all sincerity.